Experimented with probably 45 different types of woods that are not oak. The bad news there is that most of those woods, if you try to make them into a barrel, they're not going to bend or they're going to leak.
For over 6 decades, a coating of red wax has been the signature look of one of America's best-selling bourbons, Maker's Mark. This distinctive seal isn't just for show. It's a mark of the craftsmanship and care that goes into every bottle. But what exactly does it take to produce this iconic bourbon? Well, it all starts with time, at least 6 years of it, to be precise. That's the minimum aging period for every single bottle of Maker's Mark, ensuring that each sip delivers the perfect blend of flavors. Located in a tiny town in Kentucky, the Maker's Mark distillery operates like a well-oiled machine, producing nearly 150,000 bottles each day. But producing bourbon isn't just about volume. It's about adhering to strict regulations and traditions that date back centuries. To even call it bourbon, this golden liquid must be aged in oak barrels that are charred on the inside. This charring process is essential as it brings out the natural flavors and aromas that define the bourbon. At the heart of this process are the barrels themselves. Maker's Mark has over 1 million barrels aging on site, but here's the catch: they can only use each barrel once. This is where the importance of white oak trees comes into play. These trees are not just any trees. They are the lifeblood of bourbon production. However, white oaks are tough to grow, and the next generation isn't faring so well. It takes approximately 90 years to grow the next batch of barrels, raising concerns about the future of this beloved spirit. So, why are white oaks so crucial to producing Maker's Mark bourbon? And what is the company doing to protect its red-tip spirit as demand continues to soar? The story of Maker's Mark is intertwined with Kentucky Cooperage, a company that has been making bourbon barrels from white oak since 1960. Today, it supplies barrels to distilleries all over the world. Some barrels travel as far as Scotland, while others are sent just down the road to Maker's Mark. The process of barrel making is as meticulous as the distilling process itself. White oak trees are cut into narrow strips of wood called staves, which are then aged for a year to lose moisture and unwanted flavors. Workers at the cooperage then loosely fit the staves together using a hammer and a temporary hoop, a process they call raising. But why only white oak? The answer lies in its strength and durability. Maker's Mark has experimented with over 45 different types of wood, but none have proven as reliable as white oak. Other woods simply don't bend or they leak, making them unsuitable for barrels. The staves must then be steamed to make them more pliable before being squeezed together by a hydraulic press. The barrels are then placed over a small fire pit for 45 minutes to begin bringing out the natural flavors and aromas in the wood, a process known as toasting. But the most critical step in barrel preparation is charring. This process, which involves burning a layer of charcoal on the inside of the barrel, is what gives bourbon its signature smoky flavor and golden brown color. For Maker's Mark, the charring time is set to 35 seconds, a precise timing that ensures consistency in every batch. The history of charring barrels dates back to the early 18th century, when early American spirit distillers would char barrels to sanitize them. These barrels were often used to store other goods like seafood, and setting them on fire helped eliminate any unwanted residues. The unexpected benefit was that the charred wood also imparted a unique flavor to the liquor. By 1938, it became law that for a drink to be called bourbon, it must be aged in a brand new charred barrel, guaranteeing the flavor and aroma that bourbon enthusiasts have come to love. After charring, the barrels are fitted with permanent hoops to keep everything in place and are then transported to the Maker's Mark factory for inspection. Any defects or holes in the wood could result in the loss of valuable liquid, so the inspection process is rigorous. Workers must handle the barrels with care, as they can weigh over 100 pounds. A combination of tracks, trailers, and hoists is used to move them efficiently. But the journey of making bourbon begins long before it reaches these barrels. It starts in the wheat and corn fields nearby. Corn is the most important ingredient in Maker's Mark, and the distillery receives up to 6 truckloads of it every day. Quality control is key. Each truckload is sampled to ensure there are no broken grains or foreign materials that could contaminate the drink. Once the corn passes inspection, it's ground into a mixture along with malted barley and wheat, another key ingredient that sets Maker's Mark apart. Unlike other bourbons that use rye, Maker's Mark uses soft red winter wheat, which brings out a sweeter, smoother flavor in the bourbon. The ingredients are then mixed with water to create a mash, similar to making porridge or oatmeal. The mash is combined with yeast, which is the founder's original recipe. The yeast is jump-started in a stainless steel tank, where it's fed a mix of grains, hops, and water until it's ready to handle the full mash. This mixture is left to ferment in large wooden vats, where the yeast turns the sugars into alcohol and carbon dioxide, creating the bubbles that are a hallmark of the process. After a few days, the mixture reaches about 10% alcohol and is ready for distillation. The distillery uses copper stills to evaporate the alcohol, leaving behind the solid mash. The alcohol is then cooled and condensed into a clear liquid, known as high wine, which is about 65% alcohol. This liquid undergoes a second round of distillation before being diluted with water to 55% alcohol, a crucial step in the process. The water used in this dilution is also significant. It comes from nearby lakes and is naturally filtered by limestone rock, ensuring its purity. The barrels are then filled with the bourbon and sealed with a walnut cork. On average, the distillery fills about 800 to 900 barrels per day over 2 shifts. The barrels are then moved to warehouses where they age, exposed to the varying temperatures of Kentucky's climate. This exposure causes the wood to expand and contract, allowing the bourbon to extract caramelized sugars and its golden brown color from the wood. Oxygen entering the barrels adds to the liquor's acidity, balancing the flavor profile. The barrels are periodically checked and moved from the hotter top floors to the cooler bottom floors of the warehouse. Most barrels are ready after 6 years, but some are aged for 8, 10, or even more years, with these select barrels being marketed as special editions. Once the bourbon has aged to perfection, it's piped to the bottling plant, where each barrel is enough to fill about 250 to 325 bottles. The bottling process is a blend of tradition and efficiency. Each bottle is sanitized with a shot of bourbon before being filled. The labels are cut using a 1935 printing press, a process that has remained unchanged for over 70 years. The finishing touch is the iconic red wax seal applied by hand to each bottle. This wax was developed by one of the company's founders, Margie Samuels, in the 1950s. She created the first batch in her kitchen using a deep fryer to melt the wax. Today, the wax is engineered to melt at 350 degrees Fahrenheit, ensuring it stays intact even in the hottest conditions. Despite the rigorous production process, the company takes pride in its craftsmanship. Workers rotate jobs to ensure they can handle every task, from dipping bottles in wax to driving forklifts. This dedication to quality and tradition has helped Maker's Mark become one of the most popular bourbon brands in the world, selling about 36 million bottles a year. However, the future of this iconic bourbon is tied to the fate of the white oak trees that are so crucial to its production. These trees take nearly a century to mature, and their numbers are dwindling due to changes in forest cover and climate change. To combat this, Maker's Mark has launched a breeding program, planting 10,000 new seedlings and studying 500 variations of white oaks to find the most resilient ones. One of the oldest trees on Maker's Mark property, known as the Mother Tree, is a testament to the importance of these efforts. This tree, estimated to be between 300 and 500 years old, has been studied extensively to understand why it has thrived for so long. By mapping its genetics, Maker's Mark hopes to improve future generations of white oaks ensuring that this crucial ingredient in bourbon production is available for centuries to come. As the demand for bourbon continues to rise, the company remains committed to protecting its red-tipped spirit and the natural resources that make it possible. After all, the story of Maker's Mark is not just about producing a drink. It's about preserving a tradition that has been passed down for generations.